I am Lawrence Chuno, and this is Doing Jazz. Hello everyone, and welcome to Doing Jazz. My name is Lawrence Chuno, and this episode is with vocalist Andromeda Turre. Andromeda is a versatile musician. Her voice has been used in recording for Disney, Nickelodeon, OWN Network, Cosmopolitan Magazine, Viacom, NBC, and many more. She has also sung background vocals for Ray Charles. I think that's pretty lit. Her latest work is a 4-song EP called Live that is actually recorded live. This EP is a forerunner of her upcoming album. Andromeda is a daughter of cellist Aqua Dixon and trombonist Steve Torrey. We talked a little bit about her family and about her dad, but we didn't get enough time to talk much about her mom. Hopefully next time we will be able to do that. The song playing in the background is called Smells Like Teen Spirit from her EP Live. After listening to this episode, you can learn more about Andromeda by going to the website of the podcast, www.doingjazz.net, and you can also listen to more episodes of the podcast by subscribing on iTunes, TuneIn, and Stitcher. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Andromeda Turre. In your face.
I'm worse at what I do best, and for this curse I feel blessed. Our little crew will always be and always will be till the end. Hello, 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 how low? Hello, 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 how low? Hello, 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 how low? Hello, hello, hello. With the lights on, it's as dangerous. Here we are now. Entertain us. I feel stupid.
Andromeda Turre.
That's right.
Good. Welcome to Doing Jazz.
Thank you so much, and thank you for doing jazz. I think
Thank
it's incredible
That
to have
means
a jazz
lot to me.
podcast.
Yes.
Yeah,
That means a
I'm
lot
fan.
to me because I've been working hard. I have no funding from anybody. This is just
Yeah.
me doing everything, recording it, editing it.
You have no funding yet.
Yeah. Good.
Right?
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so let's dive right into it.
Great.
I've been listening to your music,
Thank
as you
you.
know. The last one that just came out is a live EP.
Yeah.
And how about we start talking about that? We start by
Wonderful.
talking about that. You recorded, most of it is cover song.
I did a cover song of a Nirvana tune.
Okay, yeah.
And then I did my own version of Pennies from Heaven,
Yeah.
which is one of my favorite songs. And then I wrote the other 2 songs
Oh, okay.
on there, Alive
you wrote
and Golden.
Live, Alive,
Alive and Golden.
and Golden. Okay.
Yeah.
I like your cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit. That's
Thank you.
like Nirvana, right?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
Nirvana song.
Do you want to talk about the EP? You want to talk about? You can start with
Sure.
it. You can talk about all the songs if you want to.
Yeah, how much time do we have?
Yeah.
So I mean, the EP is sort of like a jumping off point for the larger project, which I call Shine.
Okay.
And that
You're
started,
working on that now.
Yeah, I'm working
Okay.
on that now. And that started with, I mean, I work as a professional singer. That is the only job that I have. I work in a lot of areas of music,
Yeah.
from performing jazz to singing with cover bands
Yeah.
to writing music for in stores and television commercials and video games to like Friday I was conducting and music directing something like
Awesome.
I do music, but most of it is in the shadows.
Yeah.
So even though it's my full-time job and I'm able to make a living doing what I love, I don't have necessarily any notoriety or have the wherewithal to perform my original music where it's being heard. Most
Yeah.
of the songs that I had written in the last few years, I wrote it and nobody ever hears them. And so I moved. I got married and recently, and we got a house and moved upstate. And when I was packing, I found a birthday card for my Aunt Gail, who's passed away now. She was one of my favorite aunts. And she used to always say this to me when I was growing up, and it never really resonated until I read it in that card. Find your light and shine. She used to always tell me that. Find your light and shine. And I realized in that moment that I was not shining, that I was sort of living a dull life in the shadows. And previously I had lived overseas for 6 years, and I was touring and I was selling out concert halls. And since I moved back to the States, I haven't really done a concert. So, and that was several years ago. And so I decided, I don't want to like quit everything else that I'm doing with music, but I want to find my light here in America, and I want to shine. So I started writing this project, and in that there's a lot of, in the decision to sort of put myself out there as a jazz singer, as an artist, as a songwriter. There's a lot of feelings. There's a lot of feelings I had of fear, of not being accepted, of insecurity when you have parents like I have, like Steve Turre and Akua Dixon, that are both established, well-known musicians. It's a little scary to put yourself out there, because you don't want to disappoint them, and you don't want people to hear your stuff and be like, oh God, in comparison to her dad, she's terrible, or whatever.
At the same time, you don't want to live in their shadows. You don't want people to always think of them when they when they hear you. So I
had to find that courage.
Find your light.
I had to find that light. Exactly. And my courage. And so this Shine project is all of those feelings. And that was the first song that I wrote, was Alive.
Okay.
I'm alive, but barely. That is exactly how I felt once I had that awakening moment. I was like, I'm not living how I should be living. And so that's where that came from. And then Smells Like Teen Spirit, I chose that song because when I was in high school, I wasn't necessarily the most popular kid. I was kind of awkward and hadn't figured out fashion yet, or like how to walk in heels, really. And
really hard to believe, though.
Thank you. I've done a lot of learning in the last 20 years. But I didn't have it all figured out then, for sure. Most people don't in high school, but I definitely was not one of the popular girls. And I used to get nervous going to school. And I remember that I would put my headphones on and I would listen to the original version of Smells Like Teen Spirit, because it had just come out. And I would listen to it on repeat in my headphones, and just something about the energy and the fire of that song made me feel powerful. It made me feel bold. It made me feel courageous. And I would just walk into school like ding, 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 ding. And I felt like I could do anything. And so I wanted to return to that. That spirit, that energy, and that sense of like false confidence that I got from that song, to sort of give me the push that I needed. Obviously the original version was not necessarily appropriate for the style of music that I sing. So my brother, who's the drummer in my band, actually did the arrangement of Smells Like Teen Spirit. He plays piano as well. He did that arrangement for me. I'm like, I want to do this song. He's like, I got an idea. And he did a beautiful arrangement. I'm very proud of him.
And the arrangement, like, you kept the authenticity that jazz brings, the musical authenticity that jazz brings to anything it touches. But at the same time, that energy was still there.
Thank you.
That's the thing I like about that particular song. I hope you're gonna do like a studio version of it.
Yes, I will definitely do a studio version.
It's gonna be on
Shine.
Okay, great. All right. And I had I was listening to your original, or your first.
My first album.
Is that your first album?
Yeah, that was my
first album. It's called Introducing Andromeda Turre. Yeah. Beautiful music. And
Thank
you just told me that you wrote one of the songs.
I actually wrote
a few of the songs.
Yeah, okay. I wrote 4 songs, I think, on that album.
Okay. Let's talk about that album. I like your cover of Besame Mucho.
Oh, I love that song.
How were you able to bring that out? Like, I mean, do you want to let's talk about that album. Talk about anything you want to talk about.
Sure. So the Introducing album, I had been living in Tokyo.
Okay.
I got a job singing there with a jazz big band, and they were all Japanese musicians, super talented. And towards the end of my time there, as with a lot of performers, especially musical theater performers, will understand, like when you're at the end of contract, you're kind of out of a job and you're like, what do I do next? Do I go back into auditioning? And then you have to see about getting another time, and there's usually a lull of space in between, and do I get a restaurant job or like catering, or what am I going to do? And so about 6 months before I hit that mark, and I was like, I don't really want to do that. I don't like having a lull. I'm going to record an album and see if I can book some gigs in between that space before I, while I figure out what the next show is that I'm going to do, or the next step is. And I wanted to record with these incredible musicians because I was so inspired by working with them every day, and also just by living in Japan. It's absolutely incredible there. So I approached them about doing it. They said yes. And I started with obviously doing some jazz standards that I love. And I wrote 4 songs. I wrote Sakura Blossoms, which are the cherry blossoms.
Oh, okay.
And if you've ever been to DC in the springtime and everything turns pink with the cherry blossom trees, Japan looks like that times 100. It's like the whole country turns pink. It's so beautiful because they have so many of those trees there. So that was that song that I wrote. I wrote Tokyo, which you were listening to earlier. That one, it was just about the spirit and the energy of that city, which is similar to New York. It's very lively. So I wanted to capture that in a song. And I wrote Let Me, because I was very lonely when I was there. It's very difficult to date in Japan as a foreigner. I think I was there for almost 2 years and I didn't go on one date. So I wrote that song about those feelings that I had. And then I wrote Lonely Holiday because it was 2 Christmases that I spent there without my family and without someone to love. So those are the songs that I wrote, and I just wanted to put something out there. I didn't really have...
How many tracks do you have? Is it like 12?
Yeah, I didn't really have, I think 10 or 12, like a story or a concept really for that album. It was my first time.
But your voice became the concept.
Thank you.
Your voice gave it a theme.
Yeah, I just wanted to like record, just to try to do something. I produced it myself. I did the arrangements myself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then after that,
I didn't even think about it. Just sounded like this big release to me. I was just listening to it. Yeah, I listened your version of it starts with Sakura Blossom. Sakura Blossom, and then you did Besame Mucho after a few tracks. And then your version of Funny Valentine also gets me. I like that. I've listened to different versions of that song. Your version and Diane Reeves' version.
Oh my God, she's so amazing.
She did a version of it that's like, okay.
She's insane.
But this is not about her. So I really like
it is about her. It's always about Diane Reeves. Everything should always be about Diane Reeves. She's so epic. Well, I actually had the honor of singing to her and with her. I went to Berklee College of Music, and my last year that I was there, they gave her an honorary doctorate, well deserved.
Wow.
And I was invited to sing at the commencement concert, and I got to do some of her arrangements of some tunes. And then for the last song, I think it was just a blues. I can't remember now. It was so long ago. And she invited the singers out to come and scat with her and sing with her. And she was so lovely and so encouraging. I'll never forget that moment.
Wow.
I was also scared out of my mind. I was like, oh my God, I have to go on stage with Diane Reeves. I was like, I don't know, 20, just freaking out, but it was great.
That's awesome.
She's so good.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm from New York City. I was born in the Bronx.
Wow. Yeah. Where in the Bronx? Riverdale?
No, I was, that would be the nice area. No, I was born in Albert Einstein Hospital.
Okay.
Yeah.
What area?
I never lived in the Bronx. My mom is from the Bronx.
I see.
She grew up there, and her family was there, and I believe, we'll have to double check with my mom, but I believe she was visiting her mom in the Bronx when she went into labor.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I was born in the Bronx. But I grew up in Manhattan.
I see.
And then middle school and high school, we moved to New Jersey, which is also not far. And I still continued all of my dancing lessons and stuff in the city. So I was in the city pretty much 5 days a week, even after we moved to Jersey anyway.
You talked a little bit about your dad, who is a musician. Do you want to talk about him a little bit?
Sure. Do you have any specific questions?
No. Just
okay.
Because it shapes your background. It's like a big part of your background.
Absolutely.
You know?
I would say that obviously my dad had a heavy influence on me, but more so it was the combination of both of my parents, since they're both musicians, that from a very early age, it was all I really knew. Music was the lifestyle that I grew up with. I grew up with touring in the summer when I wasn't on school. I grew up with going to concerts and festivals on the weekends. My mom did a lot of Broadway shows, so sometimes I was sitting backstage at the theater while she was in the pit orchestra doing my homework, or my dad was at Saturday Night Live and I would have to go after ballet class because my mom had a matinee, and I'm sitting on the stage like coloring pictures while they're rehearsing the opening monologue. It's just maybe a little crazy, but I loved it. And it was practicing. My parents like saying, all right, I need you to color or do this puzzle because I need to practice. It was just always something that was very normal to me. So when I very naturally went into music myself, it wasn't like a learning curve that I've spoken with a lot of other friends of mine, like trying to figure out how to incorporate, I got to practice. Or, I got to find time to like fit this in. But for me, it was just, that's what you do.
Yes.
You get up and
I always envy people who had that background in the arts. Like I'm sure that by the time you were 10 years old, you already knew that, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay.
Even younger.
Yeah. So I always envy that. I didn't know myself. Like,
really?
Yeah, I went to school for math.
Oh,
I'm still a math professor.
That's fabulous.
I still have to go to work now. So it took me a while, and it's still something that I still struggle with. At a point in time, I told myself, okay, you just have to give up this music thing and focus on what you are quote unquote supposed to be doing. But I couldn't.
No,
I
you
still
can't.
kept doing,
You have to find your light and shine.
One day I will find it. I'm sure after meeting you, I'm sure. I'm definitely sure I'm going to find it now. After listening to your story now.
But you know what? One of the things that I say to anyone who's ever asked me for advice, career advice, or any of my students that I've ever had, when you are developing yourself and you are putting yourself out there, or you're going on an audition and you don't get something, or you fail at something, it doesn't mean that it's not meant for you. Sometimes it's not. I mean, there are some people that I've heard that have been like, okay, you definitely shouldn't sing. But for the most part, like if you're not terrible, there is a space in this world for everyone. And having this mentality has also enabled me to have a lot of other friends that are great vocalists and never have a feeling of competition. And never have a feeling of, I'm going to like not introduce her to this person because I don't want them to hire them. Because I know that all of my friends that are also jazz singers, they can't do what I can do. And I can't do what they can do. So if someone is hiring them for a job over me, it doesn't mean that I'm bad. It just means that that's what they wanted. It's apples and oranges. And the same thing applies to finding your space for your music and your world. There is a venue, there is a following, there is a space for everyone's music. You just have to find it. And one other reason why I wanted to hear your background as it relates to your parents is that some of the impedance that people who don't have artists as parents have is they don't get the encouragement that an artistic parent would give to their up-and-coming kid who wants to do the arts. So
but for you, I don't think you ever had that issue of your parents discouraging you from
They definitely
doing music or questioning.
I don't want to say that they discouraged me, but I think they know how hard it is, and they're like, "Are you sure you want to do this? You see how crazy it is?" And I'm like, yes. But it's on the flip side, it's like, well, what else did you want to do? Like dinner conversation for us was like, oh, you know, we're going to talk about Nickelodeon scales, or like we're talking about this.
I wish I had that.
You know what I mean?
I would die to have such a conversation over dinner.
Or like we're listening to 88.3 and like we would play a game and where everybody has to be able to name all of the instrumentalists just from listening to it. My dad would be like, all right, who's playing bass on this? And we'd have to be like, Buster Williams. He's like, yes. You know, like this.
I can't even do that now. You know, I mean, the only pianist I can pick out is like Herbie Hancock.
Yeah, or know? McCoy Tyner. Hopefully, you know what I mean? Like sometimes I definitely got the answers wrong. But just encouraging that kind of listening and stuff was normal growing up in my family. And so I don't want to say that they like specifically encouraged it. It was just how they were, and it rubbed off on me. It was via osmosis, really.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome.
And of course they support me. I mean, my dad did play on the live EP that just came out.
Okay.
And
I looked at the names. I saw a few Torres.
Yeah, there's a few of us. Me, my dad, and my brother.
Okay.
And he came that day for moral support. He had not heard Golden, the song that he ended up playing on, which harmonically is a little complex. And he really liked it. And I was like, well, do you want to play a solo on it? And he's like, yeah, sure. You got a chart for me? And I'm like, I'll make one right now. And he obviously crushed it. But I was, again, so, I mean, he's my dad, but I'm still always so in awe of his ability to like come in on a song that's that harmonically complex and just play a crushing solo over it without ever hearing it before. I'm like,
that's
wow.
Awesome. That's awesome.
I would be too scared to do that still, I think.
You never know.
Yeah.
Oh, so what I wanted to know now is how did you, because when you were young, you knew what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
But how did that carry on? How did you keep, because it's a difficult field. It's a music. It's difficult all around. You got to practice. You got to believe in yourself. You got to always have that quest of finding that light.
Yeah.
How did you keep pushing? How did you go to a performing arts high school?
I did.
Okay,
well, it had a great, I went to Montclair High School, but they had a school of visual and performing arts within the school that I was a part of. That was incredible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did that, and then you went to Berkeley.
Yeah, I went to Boston Conservatory and to Berkeley.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what kept you in line?
What kept me going?
Is there anything apart from obviously your background, your music, your musical background, your parents must have an influence. I bet. I just feel like there has to be something within you that still didn't allow you to get derailed.
Yeah.
You know? So
I don't know. I think I'm just crazy. Like I just love it. I've always just really loved it and excelled at different areas of music.
Yeah.
And that has enabled me that even when things have been difficult to keep going. So at times when I didn't have a show or I wasn't touring or performing, I could work writing charts for people. Like a lot of singers can't read or write music and they need help with putting their book together. I would do that for a fee, or I would or do arrangements or teach voice or write songs for, I still write a lot of music for licensing, as I was mentioning to you earlier, just to keep my bills paid. Yeah. And I think being able to have multiple jobs in music allowed me to, it was good and bad. It was good because it allowed me to never have that giant setback that I've seen in other friends where they're like, I have been working in this restaurant for 2 years and haven't booked anything, and I'm just going to like quit because I'm not getting anywhere, and I have gone on 100 auditions and haven't landed anything. Definitely have had those times, but I was still working as a musician. Yeah. So I think I had comfort in that
Yeah.
that I never gave up because I'm like,
see.
well, I'm still doing music.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the flip side, I had gotten, before I found my aunt's card, a little
Yeah.
complacent because I
About-
was like, well, my bills are paid. I'm living
Yeah,
good. I
yes,
have
yes,
my
yes.
nice car and I'm, but I was just doing like all this background
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I let myself slip musically a little
I
bit,
see.
even
I
though I
see.
was still writing all the time and I
Yes,
paint
yeah.
as well. I was still being creative. I just wasn't
Awesome.
putting
You
it out
paint?
there. Yeah, I love to paint. I love your artwork. You have beautiful
Yeah,
artwork
it's one
here.
from one of my friends.
It's very beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. You've haphazardly mentioned a few of the other things you do. Can we
Okay.
just list all of them? See, I know you the two I can remember is that you sang with Ray Charles.
Yeah.
That's huge. Mm-hmm. And then you worked on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. Do background vocals
And
there.
so your background vocals.
Yeah.
And then you've worked for networks like the OWN
Yeah.
network. And
Written music for
You've
them.
written music
and,
for them?
And performed. Yeah.
wow. So you write music and you license them, and
Mm-hmm.
then you've done a lot of background vocals, and then you've let's just stick to those for now.
Yeah.
Can you talk about working with Ray Charles?
Oh my gosh.
Please.
Yes. First of all, I will say that I watched the movie Ray after he passed, and I was completely shocked by that movie because when I met Ray Charles, he was just like a sweet old man.
Yeah.
And to see like all of the womanizing and the
Yeah.
drug abuse, I was like, oh my God. Totally different person than the Ray
Yeah.
that I know. He was the sweetest, most loving. He was like a good grandpa. My dad had worked for Ray
Okay.
before I was born. And my uncle Pete, who is a drummer, had also played drums for Ray forever. And one of his Raylettes was pregnant and needed to take off, and they needed a replacement. And I happened to be in Boston, and they were on tour, and was recommended.
Yeah.
And I went and I had to submit an audition tape. I sang Round Midnight, one of my favorite songs. And Ray was like, all right, have her come in. She can sing Round Midnight.
Round Midnight.
It's not the
She's
easiest
good.
song to sing. So she can hear intervals.
Yeah.
And I came in and worked with Stella, who was the head Raylette at the time. And they sort of fit me in and were like, all right, let's see how fast you can pick up these harmonies. And luckily I was able to do it. And they were like, great. So we're going to fly you to Montreal tomorrow for the
Oh my
Montreal
gosh.
Jazz Festival. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, let's go.
Wow.
And I was
Awesome.
still in college and I dropped out to go. And I don't regret it because Ray didn't live for very long after
Yeah.
that. And even though I never went back to finish my degree at Berkeley, I don't regret it because that was an opportunity of a lifetime. And from there, I just kept working. I think that is also an interesting thing about music school.
Yeah.
It's wonderful for some people and it teaches a lot of things, but at the end of the day, when you are a performing artist, a lot of the skills that I learned, both from my parents, but also at Berkeley and at Boston Conservatory, helped me with those other music jobs that I have, being
yes.
able to write charts or whatever. But performing jobs, they don't care what college you went to. They
Yes.
don't care who you sung with. They're like, can you sing? Sing for me. Okay, I like your voice. You're hired. Yes or no?
Yeah.
So it's never that I didn't finish my degree has never prevented me from being
getting
able
a
to do
job.
anything that I wanted
And
to
you know
do.
theory too.
Yeah, but that I knew growing up. I
Yes,
played
yeah.
piano as well, and just via my parents, it
If
was
you-
something
if you-
I learned.
If you arrange for other people, you're badass. That's really good.
Well,
That's
there are definitely better arrangers than me, but
no,
I can.
but just being able to arrange. I mean, I barely arrange my own vocals and piano, and then all I do is give other people to do the horn part. Or
Yeah.
I come up with the bass part. I
That's
do
great.
a little bit of.
You're
stuff.
far ahead of a lot of singers that are working. Seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
Seriously. But Ray was incredible. And one of the things that I really liked about that particular opportunity is the vocal obviously the band charts had been written out because those guys have to read the music.
Yeah.
But most of the vocalists didn't have formal training.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them came from the church and they had voices to die for,
Mm-hmm.
but none of the vocal music had ever been written down or transcribed. And so since Ray knew that I could read and write music,
Yeah.
I have some I still had a cassette tape back then. I had like a cassette tape recorder, and I still have some old tapes where I was rehearsing with him, and he's playing all of the harmony parts for me so
Yeah.
that I could write them down,
Oh my gosh.
so that they would be documented. Because if you listen to which didn't necessarily make me the most popular, being both the youngest person in the band and have some sort of favoritism
How old were
and
you
skill.
then?
I was 22 or something,
wow.
23 maybe, very young.
Yeah.
But Ray passed away, and then his estate manager contacted me because they wanted to do a reunion show, a tribute show with Billy Osborne, who's fantastic, doing Ray's music. And, you know, if you listen to a lot of the original recordings of Ray Charles, they recorded in one room and the singers were on one mic. And when you have five singers, you hear these lush harmonies, but to be able to pick out what notes each singer is singing is quite difficult. And there's no way to isolate the tracks because of the way it was recorded. So they were like, hey, do you happen to have that music? And I was still like less than 25. I think it was maybe 24 at this point, maybe 23,
You're
24.
legendary, and you don't know. You're like you're like a treasure, like a walking treasure when it comes to Ray Charles.
But I'm also a little bit sassy, and I said, yeah, I have him. So if you're going to do this show, you're going to hire me as the vocal director.
That's what's up. That's good. I like that.
If you want these charts and you're going to pay me for these charts. And they were like, no, we're not. And I'm like, all right, well, good luck picking them off the track. Called me a couple of days later. Yeah, okay. You can, all right.
That's really good. That's really good. Wow. This has been fun. I want us to do a little quick fun game. It's called Turn Up, or Mute.
Okay.
Actually, turn up and mute.
Okay.
Let me explain. What you like, you turn it up. The other thing, you mute it.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean that you always prefer what you like. This is just how you feel now.
Right now.
You know, so this
Perfect.
is turn
I
up.
love this game.
All right.
This sounds
it's
fun.
only three questions. Turn up Tokyo style. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Boston or Tokyo?
Tokyo.
Tokyo, really?
100,000,000% Tokyo.
Okay.
I actually don't like Boston very much.
Oh, really? Because of the cold?
No, I don't mind
Tokyo
the
is
cold. I'm
cold
from
also.
New York.
Tokyo
Yeah.
gets cold too.
I think it was more the social environment of Boston was a little bit too bro for me.
Too bro.
Yeah, like it's very like collegey.
Yeah.
I didn't particularly enjoy it. And I also experienced a lot of racism when I was living there.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of racism. So that made it an unpleasant experience.
I wanted to ask you, your name, Andromeda.
Yeah, it's Greek.
Is Greek?
Yeah, I'm not Greek, but my parents picked a Greek name.
Okay. What kind of racism, if you don't mind?
Sure. I mean, I could go on for hours because I
Yeah.
experienced a lot. But even just one example is it was a beautiful spring day in Boston.
Yeah.
I lived in an apartment on Commonwealth Avenue. And in front, it was like a brownstone like you have here. And in front, you could come down the stairs and there was a little grassy area.
Yeah.
So since it was nice out and I had to study, I was just sitting barefoot on the grassy area reading a book.
Oh my God.
And a police officer came by and he was like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here, because Commonwealth area is a very expensive neighborhood. And I was like, I live here. And he was like, I need to see your ID. And I'm like, well, I didn't bring any ID just to walk down the stairs and sit in my front lawn, but I can go inside and get some. And he like wouldn't allow me to go back into my own house to get ID, and called like another cop car to come. And they like they accused me of trespassing essentially.
Really?
And luckily my roommate happened to come home because they were going to arrest me and they wanted to take me to the precinct because I couldn't prove that I lived there.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
My white roommate came home and was like, it's fine, she's my roommate. And they were like, okay. And they didn't even ask her for ID
anything,
or clarification that she lived there.
Yeah.
She could have been anyone.
And the funniest thing is when you mention this kind of thing to some people, they try to kind of rationalize it. Oh, are you sure that you were not just walking around? And
I was
they
sitting there
thought,
with a book. Even if I
So-
didn't live there,
Yeah.
what am I going to, like, throw the book at someone?
know.
Like, what do you
I
think
know.
I'm going to do
Yeah.
with a book?
It's crazy. When it comes to that kind of story.
Like a music theory book, probably at
I
that.
know. Like it's crazy. I've had so many of those stories
Yeah.
that I'm just tired of even telling people my like
Exactly.
It's like sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna vote.
Yes, honey, I vote every. I'm like, I will vote for the school district board. I don't even care, so that other kids don't have to deal with this stuff that I experienced growing up.
it.
I
That's
am a
all we can
huge
do for now.
voter.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Mm-hmm. All right, another question.
Okay.
Tokyo clubs, New York clubs.
Tokyo club.
Really?
The best club in the world is in
Okay.
Tokyo. It's called Ageha.
Wow.
So if you're in Tokyo or you're
Yeah.
going to Tokyo,
I've
go
never
to
been.
Ageha.
Okay. Do you speak any kind of
Japanese?
yeah?
Hai, skoshi wakaru.
Oh.
Konbanwa, genki.
Oh, okay.
Tanoshindemasu ka? If
That's
anybody's
what's up.
listening that speaks Japanese.
Now, this next question is a tough one. Get ready.
Okay.
Sakura Blossom,
Mm-hmm.
Tokyo. 2 songs. You gotta turn one up. And it doesn't mean that one will remain up. Another
Sure.
one could get up tomorrow.
I'm in a very high energy mood today.
Yeah.
As it is Halloween.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Tokyo and put the mute on
Okay.
Sakura Blossom.
Tokyo, 3
Three times.
three
Tokyo
times.
wins. Tokyo
That's
always
awesome.
wins with me. I
That's
love it
good.
there.
Do you have any kind of message for your Tokyo fans or your
I miss
Japanese?
you.
Can you say it in your language?
I don't remember how to say I miss you.
Oh, whatever. Just say whatever.
But I do.
in
I
Japanese.
miss my fans in Tokyo, and I want to come back and see you again
Okay.
soon.
Good. Andromeda,
Arigato.
this has been fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
thank you
having
for coming. Thank you for uplifting my spirit today, and thank you for your wonderful stories.
Sure.
You know, it really inspired me.
Oh, thank
Seriously.
you.
Seriously.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope we can do this again.
Anytime. Now I know where to find you.
Yes, you know where. Thank you. Later.
Bye-bye.
Load up your guns and bring your friends. It's fun to lose and to pretend she's overboard. Self-assured, don't know what no. A dirty